friends. Welcome to the first episode of Marriage Matters. In Ecclesiastes 7:18, the writer says, "It's good to grasp the one and not let go of the other. Whoever fears God will avoid all extremes." And we want to apply this to our marriages. So in our marriage, a grand avoidance of extremes is a needed skill. None of us wants to be rejected. None of us wants to be absorbed. These are the two extremes. You must not reject me, and you cannot absorb me. We are designed to find the balanced middle ground where we're both in covenant and yet emboldened to achieve all that we were called to be. And this is what Paul suggests in 1 Corinthians 11:11. He says, "Nevertheless, in the Lord, woman or a wife is not independent of a man or her husband, nor is a man independent of woman. In Jesus Christ, a new covenant is formed, neither male nor female, Jew nor Greek, slave nor free. We're all become one. In the Lord, we are not independent of one another. We need one another."
We know that 1 Corinthians 11 teaches we are not independent of our spouses. The attitude, which in its extreme says, "Leave me alone, you're not the boss of me. I don't care what you do, just don't tell me what to do. This is my life," are all contrary to the covenant we made. Complete independence is unhealthy because it can cause our spouse to feel unneeded, lonely, or rejected. Likewise, extreme dependence, "Don't ever leave me alone, I cannot manage without you, tell me what I should do, call me every hour, make sure your phone is always on when I call," can make our spouse feel mistrusted and absorbed. We have to find the balance, interdependence, mutually depending on one another.
So here we are with an interdependent place. The sense of, I like where we are. In an interdependent marriage, spouses feel needed without being overburdened. They feel a sense of freedom and power, understanding that their happiness is both in the hands of their spouse and in their own. But when one of us feels like we're drifting too close to one of these extremes, we're either feeling personally rejected or we're feeling absorbed, a careful conversation is needed. And often these two extremes will feed one another's insecurities. It will require cool heads and calm emotions to discuss this reality. But not discussing that reality is far, far worse.
So let's fill in the rest of our graded graph. We go from reject, distant, interdependent, eager, absorbed. Basically from "you mustn't reject me" to "I need a little more attention" to "I like where we are" to "I need a little more space" to "you cannot absorb me." Now let's apply this measuring scale to 3 common areas. In these specific areas, choose a number that most accurately describes how you feel.
In the area of interest in my passions, how my spouse takes an interest in what I'm passionate about, assign a number. In the area of communication, how you feel that you and your spouse communicate. Is there rejection? Is he distant? Are you interdependent? Is it too eager? Is it absorbing? In the area of sexuality, assign a number in each of those areas.
Take a look at each of these topics. Which value on the scale do you feel reflects you best when talking about how your spouse shows interest in your passions? Assign a number to your marriage that speaks most accurately about your communication with one another. Again, make an estimate in your opinion of the number that best illustrates how you and your spouse are responding to one another's sexuality.
In the following graph, a copy of which is included in a PDF attached to this video, you can fill in both what your responses and your spouse's responses were in those 3 areas. Now, you may be satisfied with those responses, but where one of you is close to one of the extremes, it implies that a careful conversation is required in that area. Now be gentle with one another as you express your desire to find that interdependent balance. The goal for all of us is to find a place of freedom and covenant, being supported, covered, celebrated, and launched by your spouse.
We hope this exercise will be helpful to your marriage. In our next episode, we discuss dying, draining, and dream marriages. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Marriage Matters.